Thank you again for being here in the Vulnerability Babe podcast. I'm so honored, excited, and just so giddy to have all the awesome juices flowing
Thank you
to
so much for having
share.
me.
And please tell us a brief description of who you are, who you help, and what do you do to help them and why.
So, my name is Becks,
Mm.
and I'm a mentor, life coach, and I specialize in codependency, people pleasing. I've gotten bits and pieces of help in my life, and I always felt like there's something bigger out there. I knew me being an empath and always being so kind-hearted, the bullshit that would come in my life, like nothing changed that part about me. And I always knew that helping people felt so good to me. But I was also a victim for a long time. And I'm like, why is my life chaotic like this? How come I can't find people that treat me the same way that I treat them? About 2 years ago, I ran into you and you told me, my dream was always to become more psychic, more aware of my surroundings and connect with people on the other side. And that was my biggest motivation, was to be more connected. It's inevitable that we're going to lose people in our life. So that was my biggest motivation to heal myself. I was in a 22-year cycle of, being in a relationship, searching for someone or dating someone. I could not be alone for the fucking life of me. So I knew I had some work to do. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what I needed to do. And it took me, going through COVID, I lost my best friend who we were speaking about earlier to, she took her life. And, COVID shut everything down. And I
It's
was
crazy
just,
that that's been only 5 years ago.
yeah, yeah,
That changed our whole trajectory of the human race.
yeah. And you either, got better and, you know, took care of your shit, or you got worse.
Yeah.
And I got to that point where I was going through the loss of my friend and COVID
Yeah.
and another breakup. And so I was just like, fuck this shit, I wanted to join my friend. So I did a little bit of healing, and then right when I started doing that, someone else came into my life, and we started dating, and I just couldn't handle the loss of my friends, so I just fucking raged. I was always, like, had my shit together, but at that point I was just done. And it definitely helped me hit rock bottom. I lost 10 pounds. I was so skinny. I was purging all the time. I just felt so toxic in my body.
I
And
remember I remember you purging, yeah.
yeah, you saw the tail end of that.
Wow.
Such a toxic relationship, physical, emotional abuse. And I just hit that point of like, I want to change. And I didn't know how, I didn't know where or when. But as soon as I made that decision within myself, that's when I started seeing signs, seeing butterflies everywhere. And I connected to my grandma on the other side before. I had a couple experiences. And I remember it was like her death anniversary. I lit some incense for her. And then I went outside
Yeah.
and I saw these two butterflies like
Oh.
literally fly right in front of me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I wonder if that's grandma and grandpa.
They're just like,
And
we're here.
yeah, right. Like right after I did that, and I went to the car and saw my friend, and I'm like, oh my God, you can't believe I just saw. And she's like, bitch, they're sitting on your head. Like I had a hat on, and I'm like, oh my God, like, holy shit. So I started getting all
They're
of
just like,
these,
let's make it obvious.
yeah, like, bitch, get your shit together. Come on. Like, we're here.
Does that feel like in that moment, you just went through all of that, and at times when we're going through all of that, we're like, no, this can't be part of our journey, but sometimes we have to grow and go through the things that we mentally, emotionally, and logically do not want to go through in order to have a breakthrough. And you were
Totally.
going through so much, but in that moment, you were seeing That's a pretty big sign. How are you
Yeah,
feeling then?
it was insane, and that those were the things that motivated me to keep going and listen to my intuition and understand why I was the way I was. I grew up with a caregiver that had narcissistic tendencies. They could never see, hear, or validate me. My feelings never mattered. I didn't have a voice. And my
Yeah.
other caregiver was the people pleaser, codependent, and had
Mm,
no voice. And I leaned kind of more towards that. I could admit if I was wrong. And it was just the conditioning that I went through. And
yes.
I didn't understand that part. I almost took my life when I was 12 years old. Um, we lost our house, we lost our cars, we were living in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
The only
That's
thing
a
that really,
big thing to go through. You know, the
totally,
you
totally,
had stability and then suddenly it was taken away. That's a lot for a 12-year-old to go through, even though it wasn't your fault at all. But
totally.
you were still going through that.
I didn't understand. I didn't connect to kids ever,
Mm.
like never had a real connection. My connection were with animals. We lived on a
Yeah.
ranch. I had horses and dogs, and I didn't give a shit about having friends. Like I was just like, I'm good here. I'm gonna spend time with my horse. We're gonna go
Yeah.
ride out in the desert. Animals truly saved my life.
Yeah.
And I just always felt like the odd one out. I knew I was weird. I had a grandma that was pretty psychic. She
So
could see auras, she could see spirits, and her ghost stories scared the fucking shit out of me. But like, I was so intrigued by this.
that sounds like an awesome freaking childhood, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, in the midst of going through all of that, but in it too, there's so much beauty with you getting to be yourself because your grandma was herself too. She didn't hide that part of herself. That's such a great thing to be exposed by at such a young age as well.
I definitely did not tell anybody, any of my classmates. Like, I had a pendulum when I was in sixth grade. I would hold it over my friends' pictures in the yearbook and, like,
Yeah.
should I be friends with this person? Like, I
Oh.
always just knew I was different.
You're following your intuition and like practicing how that felt even at such a young age. You've been honing that since. I want to acknowledge that you've been doing this, like expressing your power and your psychic abilities and honing into it for a long time. It wasn't just 2 years ago. This has been you like discovering yourself piece by piece. And I'm
Right.
just, I freaking love hearing that.
Yeah, I knew this within me like forever, but I was just so scared to talk to people about it. I didn't
Mm,
hear any of my friends talking about it, and I wanted to fit in so badly. So I didn't get to know really that part of myself. I was too scared. I'm like, who the hell's gonna want to be my friend? If
mhm.
I actually express what I'm into,
Yeah,
my biggest goal was to fit in and please people because that was just all I knew. And I depended on that outside love
yeah.
to feel loved. I didn't know how to be there for myself or love myself, respect myself. It was this scary thing.
Yes. And I love that we did a little flashback of where it all started and the conditioning that a lot of us go through about not being there for ourselves and validating ourselves. And as you were saying, like, why can't I find people who love me the way I love people? And that's such an important thing to have that reciprocal kind of love, whether it be familial, friendships, or romantic. Now, going forward, you started there and you were going through your journey of awareness. A lot of things has been going on bombarding you. That's a lot of things to go through emotionally, mentally, simply just as a person. You're also going through the healing journey of still learning who you are as a person with your inner child. What was something that clicked in you that said, I need to do this for me, for inner child Becks, for Becks in the future, for me now? Something's got to change.
It was just when I hit the rock bottom, I wanted to connect again to myself
Mm,
and go back to what I had experienced earlier in my life. Like I knew there were keys to the universe and it was my mission to figure it out.
Yeah.
And once I was in such a toxic relationship in 2022. I was just done. I kept noticing that I was attracting narcissistic people and being gaslit and lied to and manipulated.
Mm.
And it just had to happen for 22 years for me to hit that spot.
Yeah.
And I was finally willing to do whatever I could to get out of it. And then after I met you and you told me, you're like, you can be psychic. I can. And you're like, yeah, girl, you just got to heal yourself. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. I took Anita's program and started healing my limiting beliefs and meditating. And I started seeing the differences.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to just bite the bullet and break up with my ex. And that was one of the hardest things for me to do because I was still emotionally attached to her. I was so
Yeah.
scared to actually be by myself,
Yeah.
but I knew like I'm done with this bullshit. So, on my way to break up with her, I was getting signs, so many signs to just go break up with her, and
What?
that's what kept me going. Like I'm on the right path.
Like that confirmation, that courage, giving you extra courage for saying yes to you, choosing all the versions of you, not just for your future self. I'm so proud of you because you continue to choose yourself. In life, sometimes we go through it and we're like, it needs to look a certain way. When I get to point A and B, it's gonna be like all smooth sailing and whatnot. And that's not how it usually goes. Like,
Right.
sometimes there is no lighthouse to guide us, and we're like in there just navigating the boat, like, where the hell are we going? Do I even know how to do this? But you've been navigating that boat for your whole life and it got you this far. And although it may seem like 22 years is a long time, you reach that point of awareness. And some people don't reach that point of awareness until way later on, and that's still a beautiful thing. No matter how long it took you to get there, you got there for
Right.
you.
That
Yeah.
22 years taught me everything I did not want in a relationship.
Yeah.
And same goes to like, anybody that I was attracting in my life, my friends, my bosses, my
Yeah.
coworkers, certain family members. I finally started to be able to form my boundaries and what I actually desire in a person, and that's
Mm.
why we go through these experiences, even if they're not great experiences, it teaches us something along the way. We can focus on where we want to move forward, what we learned, and give ourselves all of that compassion. Like I had to give myself so much compassion. I constantly felt in guilt and shame. And
Mm.
that was a huge thing for me to learn, was to give myself that and love myself no matter what. Figuring out where all this shit was rooted from. And once I made sense of that, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder I was allowing all this shit to happen to me. What happens for me, not to me. And you
Yeah.
get out of that victim mentality. And instead of complaining and complaining, I would complain to my friends
Mm.
of my relationship. And it's like, no one wants to deal with that.
Mm.
No one wants to keep hearing that, especially if you're not making change. But I
Mm.
just didn't know anything else. I needed
Yeah.
to ego dump and figure out, like, what I actually desire.
Yeah, and that in itself is so powerful. It can be very both liberating and also confusing and exciting. We go through different emotions of our limiting beliefs. It's a constant thing. But what are some tools that has helped you during your path?
I got a few. So when I first, I changed locations, I did everything. I broke up with her, moved my entire business,
Mm.
actually being by myself for the first time in my life.
Wow, that's a
And
big move, a whole nother city.
yeah, it was scary, but like I was
Yeah,
getting all the signs for it. And I'm like, I gotta fucking do this. Like, let's
yeah.
fucking go. It was definitely a transition. I just started connecting to nature, paying attention and observing what's happening on the
Mhm.
outside of me. The signs and the synchronicity started it. I got a little addicted to them. Like I just wanted more answers and I was just really
Yeah.
excited. Meditation was always good for me. I started making that a daily practice. Tarot
Mhm.
card readings, journaling. I was journaling every single day.
Were you doing
Um,
readings on yourself or other people were doing readings for you?
I
Or
was
both?
doing readings for myself.
Okay,
I
that's
got kind of
oh,
addicted into the TikTok readings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing?
you're
So
trusting your intuition when you're doing it with yourself. That is
exactly.
awesome.
And there was one night that like I was doing pretty good in the first couple months, I was on a new high and a new location and it just hit me and I felt
Mhm.
so lonely and I didn't have that person to comfort me and I didn't want to be toxic with my friends and complain and I'm like, nope, I got to do this on my own. So I just broke down crying and I just
Mhm.
got this idea in my head. I feel like I want to be with someone right now. So I put my video camera on and, I saw myself. So it felt like I was hanging out with someone. And I
That's
just, I just like let it out. I was sobbing. I was saying exactly how I felt.
so
And I'm like, I got to get out of this cycle. I know I got to get out of this cycle and be by myself. And it was so crazy to watch it back. It was like seeing my inner child crying and just feeling all the emotions and the sadness, and it helped me look at her and feel for her, and it was like I was giving her love. And so it's like I was talking to my inner child and giving her the love that she didn't receive when she needed it. And that was so powerful for me and made a lot of change, like major healing for me.
Thank you for sharing that. My heart is elated and that's just so powerful.
Yeah.
You saw yourself and you allowed yourself to hold yourself, hold that space for yourself, to feel, to be where you're at, to acknowledge everything that you've gone through, are going through, and like not make it mean anything about you other than that you love yourself.
Right. Yeah, no, it was super powerful and it just came out of nowhere, and I was really thankful that I just listened to myself, and I just really got to know myself and it was just me. I had no
Yeah.
friends. I have my older brother here and thank God for that man. He helped me through so many things. I would see him every now and then. I got to do whatever I wanted and it was just so weird. Like, what do I feel like doing? What do I feel like getting into?
Bringing yourself on dates. I
Oh yeah,
love
I
that.
and the nerd just came out. I started watching stuff on Greek mythology. I got super into like ancient
Oh my God.
history. I'm like, oh man, there's no way I would have watched this with anybody that I was dating. This is amazing. Like, I am such a nerd.
I can feel how much it lighted you up just having a sacred time of getting to know and catching up and discovering and be like, we get to do this just because it fills you up. It makes you
Yeah.
happy. It moves you and hang out with the person that we're with the most.
And that's what so many people don't do. They don't get to know who they truly are, how they work, what they're passionate about, what drives them. Another one is I play guitar.
Mhm.
And I love to hear sappy love songs. In my past, when I was alone, I couldn't live
Mhm.
and listen to love songs. It would make me sad. And I'm like, why don't I turn this around on me and fucking serenade myself? I started playing guitar more, learning love songs, and like literally singing to myself. And I would just be like bawling my eyes out, like, oh my God, I love myself.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, Bex, I freaking love hearing this part of your journey. The progression of it, and you were feeling so many different things, and you were allowing yourself to feel that, allowing yourself to be where you're at emotionally, mentally, physically. And that's so freaking beautiful. That's freaking amazing.
Right. Yeah. It's just changing your perception and putting love on yourself. One of my mentors, Diamond No, and instead of
Mhm.
being a victim, how to change your perception on things, journaling and ego dumping.
For those that are new to the term ego dumping, could you just briefly describe what does that mean?
It's literally like the best thing ever. Like you just write out if you're angry,
Mhm.
write it all out. Fuck this, fuck that. Like, I can't believe this person said this to me. I can't believe
Mhm.
this. Like, you just let it out, sister. You got to let it out. It's within you and you got to release this energy. And like it would always make me feel better because a lot of times you ego dump to your friends and they
Mhm.
don't always want to hear it, but it's got to come out somehow. And I wanted
Mhm.
to be just within myself, and I noticed that the energy would be so much lighter in my body once I would do something like that. And it's very important. You got to let that shit out. You can't just
Yeah.
keep stuffing it and saying it's fine, everything's fine, because that's just,
Whatever you resist persists.
and yeah, and that you're just being toxic positive with yourself. And I did
Mhm.
that for many years. I kept trying to lie to myself. I didn't know any other way. So that really helped me a lot. And a very vulnerable thing, I learned how to fuck myself. Love yourself in every single way. A lot of people depend on thinking of other people or watching porn. It's
Mhm.
still the outside of you. And I got this idea just flew in my head and like, why don't you just imagine yourself doing yourself? And I'm like, oh, that's
I think a lot
different.
like my higher self.
Yeah. It's like, come on, baby, let's go. And
Or like with
I
the
was just like,
universe of like the universe is my sugar daddy.
right? Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's try it. And
Yeah.
holy shit, took like 2 seconds. I'm like, whoa, that was fucking crazy. You gotta love and respect yourself so much because once you do, and I started really digging deep into all these tools, I'm just like, holy shit, I love being alone. How the hell am I going to be with someone else now? And
Hmm. They
you
gotta
know,
meet you where you're at your peace level. Because if they don't bring that, you're just like, I don't need you.
yeah, exactly. Because you have yourself. And once you form that foundation with yourself, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to lose yourself. And you're not going to let anybody take you down because you know who you are and you respect yourself. Like, that's cool. Like, this didn't work out. Like,
Mm.
someone better will come along, that matches your vibe.
That's reciprocal. That loves you how you love you, or also loves themselves the way they would want to be loved. Because when people love themselves, then we love better in general.
Right. Yeah, I do not attract the narcissist anymore. I attract what's reflected on me. And it is so amazing. I saw all the different phases and I've dated a couple people since, and I could see that it got better. Still having to go through these experiences to keep healing other layers.
Mhm.
It feels amazing to just be in a safe space with my partner. And
I love that. And it's when you first created that safe space within yourself. I freaking love that. Now for a message for little Becks. Little Becks in the ranch going through everything. The world is a lot on her shoulders and feeling alone. What would you tell her?
I would tell her what my higher self told me at 12 years old when I tried to take my life is you're supposed to go through this. You are meant for something bigger than this, and you have purpose in this world.
Just everything that you've shared, from everything from your childhood to now, and creating that safe space with yourself. That is so freaking important. Thank you for sharing that gift and your story. Where can people connect with you?
Pretty much just on TikTok. It's called Trailblazing with Becks. I have some content on there, and my Instagram, just Beckstagram55. I am going to start some mentoring coming up soon.
Woo!
That's my purpose. I've always noticed people wanting to, converse with me and come to me for
Mhm.
advice, and it's my favorite thing in the fucking world is to help
Yeah.
guide people through the hard times and help them understand a different perspective, seeing and validating them. There are not a lot of people out there that can do that or, know how to or have the energy to do it.
And you are the person for that because you understand in a level because you went through it yourself. And that's a powerful thing in this world, learning to meet our own needs when we start off as like codependent. And it's not a linear progress or whatnot, as we've been reiterating throughout the episode, but you kept showing up for yourself throughout all these years.
Yeah.
And you've had that practice and you've gotten so freaking good at it. And look, and you became the person you are now because of what you've been through. Thank you again, Bex, for sharing your story and being you.
I feel so honored to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me.